Hello everyone, welcome again. This is another to buy or not to buy video, and this time in the offer we have the Royal FV217 Badger, British tank destroyer on tier 10, the collectible tank. And if we look on the shop, the offer has the tank itself, 1 garage slot, all 9 equipment slots unlocked, E-Square legendary camouflage, royal treatment attachment, 25 certificates for ×5 experience for this tank, and BLITZ order legendary avatar. Altogether cost us 20,000 of gold, which is quite pricey. If you look at the tank, looks pretty nice. The design, because you shouldn't call that camo, that's its design, which looks pretty interesting. It looks like a badger head or a lion, British lion head. Nicely modeled. The tank itself is well done, lots of details everywhere, and yeah, this one looks one of the best models in the game, I think. And the teapot here is that attachment. So from outside it looks quite interesting, looks quite well. And how about the parameters? The gun is the first strong point of this tank with dispersion 0.316. The gun is quite accurate. We have 123mm gun here. Aiming time 4.2 is pretty good, also pretty good. Nice quick aiming gun. Reload time 9.11. This is one of the quickest reloads on tier 10, with alpha damage 460 points per shot. We have DPM on 3030 points per minute, which is also one of the best DPM on tier 10. If you look on the penetration, 280mm on regular shells, 370 on APCR on the premium shells, which can penetrate most of the targets you're gonna fight against. And high explosives, they have 65mm of penetration. And this one is quite surprising because most of the British tanks on the higher tiers, they have heat shells as a high explosives. Here we have only high explosives and the penetration is quite low. Alpha damage on regular shells we have 460 points, 390 on premium, and 550 on high explosives. Gun depression is 10 degrees, which is not the best, but is still pretty good enough for this tank. 20 degrees of elevation, and the aiming arch is 20 degrees, which means 10 degrees left and 10 degrees right. So this aiming arch is not impressive, but the other parameters of this gun, they are quite good. About the speed, well, that's one of the weaker points of this vehicle, because as you can see we have 810 horsepower engine with the weight of a tank 63 tons, and that gives us power to weight ratio 12.9 horsepower per ton, which is not very much. And you can see on the speed here, average speed of 24 km per hour with the maximum 30 is not that much, but this is surprise because on this tank 30 km per hour is quite easy to achieve, and especially on a flat surface 30 km per hour is like, this is his average speed, so there is not much problems with the speed. And especially if you get used to the other British tank destroyers from that similar line, like a Tortoise, like 87, 8015, most of them, they are well armored, but they are very slow. And in this case, this tank is actually not too slow. 30 km per hour is pretty much for such a heavy armored vehicle. The problem here could be the traverse speed, because traverse speed of this vehicle is 22.9 degrees per second, which is quite slow. And if this is the tricky point of this tank, because if you are left alone, the traverse speed will not allow you to defend, to protect yourself against the medium attacking and flanking medium or light tanks. So that's a weak point of this vehicle. Another parameter that we're supposed to talk about is the armor. This is armor profile of the Badger. And as we remember from the other tank destroyers of this line, like 80, 15, 87 or the Tortoise, all the frontal part of those vehicles is extremely well armored. And the same situation we have here. If you can see, we have 378mm here, 378, 368 on both sides, 340, 340. So all this part is extremely well armored. and gonna be very difficult to penetrate by tier 9 on, and also some tier 10 guns. This part of hull 364, the same situation. The only problem with the weak spot gonna be on the lower plate of the hull. In the middle we have 244 millimeters and 280 millimeters on the side, so this mid part is one big weak spot, which means you're supposed to find the hull down positions just to cover all this part all the time. The rest of this tank is extremely, like I said, extremely difficult to penetrate. Of course, if you fight Badger versus Badger on premium shells, this part could be penetratable. But most of the tanks, like I said, most of the tanks gonna have a serious problem to penetrate his frontal armor. On the side, we have 180 millimeters on most of the part of this tank, and only 103 millimeters here on the back part of the side armor. Most of the side armor is covered by the spaced armor here, but those parts here we have only 180, 104 millimeters, so this one is quite easy to penetrate. On the back, there's no surprise, only 38 millimeters on the back and on the top part of this vehicle. So this part is very, very weak, so you got to be covered all the time. Like I said before, we have only 10 degrees of aiming arch, so this is the maximum part you can move the gun. So from here, 364, 367, also pretty much the same, 250. So it doesn't make much difference even if you manage to use your aiming arch. So there's not much difference in those parameters. So it will not make much of the difference, like I said. So how to play this tank? Basically, you're supposed to have one thing in your mind: protect the lower part of your hull. Always look for a position to hull down, and try to hide your lower plate as much as you can. That's the first thing. Second thing, if you can't find a position to hull down, the best way is if you face your enemy, you're not too far from it. Always try to to get as close as possible, to get like a face hack, and pretend from your enemy from aiming at your lower plate, because your upper plate, of course, is well armored, and the bonus is you don't have any weak points at the top of a turret like most of the tanks do, like commander's hatch or some other things. There is nothing here, so if you cover your lower part of a hull, you're pretty much safe. Another thing, if the tank is of course, it on the paper looks pretty good, you have a nice gun, you have a strong armor, it should be easy to play, but no, just because of a lack of maneuverability and a really pretty bad dispersion, this tank is not easy to play. So if this is your first tank, tier 10 tank you want to buy, don't do it, because you're gonna be really disappointed. The lack of traverse speed and the slow speed and lack of traverse, that's gonna make you suffer, because you should get some experience of playing the slow turretless tanks like this one. And if you go to the tier, especially if you go to tier 10, you're gonna just suffer. Basically, you're gonna just suffer because you have no experience. You're gonna be like a free HP back for the enemy to get. They will get quick to you. If you don't have any support, any protection, expose yourself on the open field. Of course, you may feel like, oh yes, I have a fantastic armor, I'm impenetrable, I have a good gun, so I can do everything. No, you can't, because you need the support to prevent from being flanked. If you get flanked, you're dead. So, like I said, it's not tank for everyone. It's quite difficult to play, and if it is your first tier 10 tank, don't buy it. In my opinion, it's still 20,000 of gold is pretty much. Of course, it's a tier 10 tank, but to be honest, if you look in the market, the tier 20,000 of gold at the moment cost about $45. So it's still quite pricey, and I'm not sure if it's worth to buy. Of course, if you're a collector, you don't care about the money. Yes, you can do it. But if you're counting every single bit of gold, you shouldn't buy it. That's my opinion. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you have some useful information. You can find some useful information for yourself. If you like my materials, you can subscribe to the channel and stay with me for just wait for incoming videos. And that's it. Thanks everyone for coming and watching. I hope I'm gonna see you next time. Meanwhile, take care and goodbye.